Hello. Uwu. How is everybody? Welcome to the belated January critique stream. So we would have done this last month, except that I got a cold and had surgery. So we weren't able to do our critique stream last month, so we are doing it this month. And then there'll be another stream in 2 weeks for the February critique stream. Hello, Eve and Ace and Reagan and Slush Owl. Hello. Hello. So it is just Ursula today. Bones is recovering from his surgery because we are a house of surgified people. So it's just me doing the critiques. I don't think we have any script submissions, luckily, so you don't have to hear my, I guess, writing advice that isn't as good as Bones. Am I healing up all right in Bones? Yeah, we're doing good. So Bones is like 3-4 days out of surgery, so he's still pretty sore, but I'm pretty much healed up. I've just got a couple little marks on my tummy that are finishing healing up, but otherwise I'm good. One sec as I make the chat a little bigger so I can read what you're saying. Doop doop. Doop doop doop. But hello, Kunai Paint. Hello, Finn. Monday. Lucia. Katrin. Hello. Welcome. Okay, so I wonder if Ursula broke the law again. How dare you? If you see McCangry in the chat, that's Bones. He is the one chit-chatting. How did I not hear you talking? I'm really quiet, Charlie, that's why. I have not broken any laws, Ace. Okay. Ban him. First time I catch y'all live? Hell yeah. Hello. Welcome. I am a mouse. Squeak, squeak. Okay. So, we have a few little critiques to do. It's not a whole lot this month. Or I guess January. So yeah, how about I start with Ace, because I see Ace is here. And let's heckin' dive in. Hell yeah. Aw, the stream is what I needed today. I'm so glad I got sync. Now I can watch the stream. Hello. Good morning. Okay. So let's start. Are you ready, Ace? Uwu. I'm indeed here. Okay, cool. So the caption says, oh wait, sorry. I'm going to give everyone 10 minutes. I think we have enough time for that. For everyone to have 10 minutes per piece. Yeah, so that should be good. That should be 2 hours-ish. See if I can focus on this stream. Same. Okay. So I'll put 10 minutes on the clock. I don't know why, but I opened my calculator app. I always do that. I mix up the timer and the calculator. They're both numbers. It's okay. Okay. 10 minutes on the clock. So the caption says, this is one of my D&D characters. He's for a campaign I'm part of, both based on the 1920s, also sort of Wild West at the same time. I'd like feedback on his design, the shading in particular. Feel free to point out other things. Okay. So Jebediah Star. Oh my god. It reminds me of when we were in RP group in high school, and we did a Western style one. We called it the Texas Accent Club. And there was a character named Jebediah. Anyways. Okay, so I like the use of triangles throughout the design. They're very apparent in like his horns, in the bottom of his little scepter wand guy, his shoes, in the bow tie and his ears and stuff. As well as like the bottom of his face is like a little subtle triangle. He's also got kind of like some squareness going on along with it. It feels like it could be pushed more. I noticed some squareness in kind of like his head here, in like his collar. I guess it's kind of implied in the lines on his pants, but I also feel it in his like his sweater thing here, as well as like the little square bit beneath the microphone. So yeah, but I think it could be pushed more, the shapes, just to kind of make him feel a bit more cohesive shape-wise, because like his bow tie could be pointier if you're going to lean into like the triangles. It could be brought through into like the pattern on his sweater or the shape of his sweater more. And yeah, I think the shapes just feel a little. They could be more cohesive, I think, because you've got like circles, you've got triangles, you've got kind of squarish feel to it, or maybe it's just a rounded feel to it. Maybe it's not squares that I'm feeling here, but I think it could be brought on more, because I think the circle, the only places it's kind of echoed are like showing like where his horns have been like chopped. I guess they're not chopped, they're like floating there, but you know, where they've been bisected. And like the heels of his shoes, and then on the scepter itself. But it feels like it could be pushed more, it could be utilized throughout the design more. As for the shading, because I know you wanted some feedback on that, you got some good directional light going on. Sorry, let me just get my little red line going. So you've got some good directional light going on. Oh, come on. Where are we, fam? There we go. Okay. Because you can see that the light is clearly like coming from over this way. Let's see. So I like how you have deepened the shadows in certain places, and you've gone for like kind of a cooler tone where it gets kind of warmer as it hits the light. I think that's a really nice effect, and adds like some more depth to the shadow and to the lighting. I think you've done a nice job, say like with the shoes, and like I said, on the arm and the torso and stuff. I think one of the places where the shading kind of feels weaker is on the hair. It doesn't feel like you've kind of adhered to the shape of the actual hair. Because you've got like a little bit of shading here to imply like I guess like the roundness of the head, but it doesn't feel like there's enough light hitting Photoshop is acting silly. It doesn't feel like the light is hitting, say, like the top of his head here. Like it needs to follow the shape of his head. Like it needs to feel rounder, where it feels very flat. And I think you need to model those forms a little bit more. In the case of like his hair, it would really help to study like how light affects like, people with hair like him, like long hair. The hair is always a struggle to shade. Yeah, it helps to think of it as a form, similar to like a piece of clothing. And it definitely helps to go and like look at actual hair and like make sure to see how it's actually affected. But it definitely helps to like break it down into a shape instead of trying to like treat it as one big shape instead of trying to treat it as like multiple little strands, because like hair is difficult because it's multiple locks that are reflecting light and casting shadow and stuff. So if I went in here and tried to kind of show the shading a bit more, so I would, because I see you've kind of like you've broken it down into different sections here, because he's got like light reflecting on different locks, and you've got some of the line work there to show different pieces of hair. I think it's just important to remember kind of where your light is. So there'd probably be some shadow here, and in here his shoulder would also probably be casting some shadow up in here. I think you'd have more kind of lightness. Let's see, let's get a nice little soft brush. Kind of up in here. You might have some light in behind. Sorry, I'm going quiet. I just have trouble talking and drawing at the same time. So yeah, I think you just need to kind of solidify it. And I think in the next drawing I tried thinking of it more as a single shape. I was afraid of doing shadows for some reason. That's okay. But yeah, I think you just need to treat it, yeah, like you said, in the next one you've started treating it more like its own shape. So I would generally start with just like treating it like it's a solid shape, putting in all your shadows and highlights, and then going in and doing little details, because I know you put in like little shiny highlights and stuff, and add those on kind of over top. And in places where there's lots of shadow, I might take some of these out, just because if there's shadow hitting it, there's not going to be these really bright highlights on it. And kind of where the light is hitting, you'll want to put in more little shiny details. I think there's also the other piece of shading that feels a little off to me is this little section right here on his sweater. I think what's happening is, because you probably would have some light hitting right within, sorry, just grabbing another color. Because you would have some light hitting here because it's not fully shadowed. Oh, ran out of time, but I'll finish up this thought. Sorry, my computer's giving me trouble. Okay. Yeah, so there would be light hitting here, but I think it needs to diffuse a little bit more. Because you've got such nice, like, soft shading, and I feel like it's competing a lot with these kind of harder, like, cuts from light to shadow. I really like it right here on his shoulder. I think that's really great because it shows kind of more of like a fold in the clothing. And I think you need to add this soft shading wherever there's going to be like a really light curve. So for example, on this like sleeve, that if it's like puffy and round, it would have that nice soft shading on it. Whereas like when you have a more hard cut between where the light's hitting and where the shadow's starting, you want to use that harder line. So I think on here where, because I think the only way that you'd have this really hard line and then it would go to this mid-tone is if there's, say, like a fold here, in which case you'd want to add like a bit of shadow to kind of highlight there's a fold right there. Or you'd want to kind of feather it out so that it would kind of blend better into the rest. But that's up to you and what your idea for it was. But yeah, I think you need to plan out a little bit where kind of those soft edges are and where those hard edges are. Do you ever look at colored stuff in grayscale to check values? I do sometimes. It just depends. It just depends on the piece. Anyways, I will move on. Very cute character. And Ace, let me know if you have any questions. Moving on to the second one. So these are two of my comic characters that I recently redesigned. Once again, Pierce and Miles. They've been through a lot. Thoughts on the designs, what kind of vibe they give, or what kind of vibe they give off would be good. Also, I've been trying a new shading style, so thoughts on that would also be appreciated. Okay. So let's look at these boys. I'll put another timer guy on. Okay. So, yeah, I like the change in the shading where you've gone for like kind of harder cell shading vibes with a little bit of gradient here and there for like blush. And a little bit of gradient on the hair as well. I like it. It's a good touch. It feels a lot more cohesive, I guess, as a shading style. And I think you've been a little bit more... the placement of the shadow feels a little more thought out and feels a little better to me. Okay, so as for the vibes that they're given. So I think looking at Pierce, he seems very... he looks very sporty. To me, I think it's like the sweatpants and the sneakers. But he looks like he is going to the gym to do some workouts, maybe do some lifting or some little walks on the treadmills, pick up some cute boys. But he looks very active. He looks very I want to say preppy, but I don't mean preppy. He looks I guess like not fancy, but like fancier. He looks like he cares about his appearance. He wears very like he's like more fashionable, you know? That's what I mean. Cares more about his appearance. Yeah, he looks really cute. I like the triangles in his design. Sorry, I need a sip of water. But yeah, I like the triangles throughout his design. Yeah, he's got a good mix of like having these kind of triangular shapes throughout. And obviously the little points and stuff. As well as this kind of shape. I guess it's like diamondy shapes throughout. They're like they're good. They're subtle, but like you can feel them that they're there. And he's also got these nice like horizontal lines throughout as well that I like a lot. I think it could be brought a bit more into his shoes. They feel very boxy to me, where I think you could push them to have that diamond shape. But overall, I really like his costume, and I like his the way his body reflects his shapes as well. And the hair is super cute. As for Miles, I think because I've seen the previous design for Miles, I think he's lost some of that cloudy softness that is really apparent in his hair here. Sorry, Photoshop's giving me trouble. But he's missing some of that softness to him that he had in his previous design. Where it's very apparent in his hair that he's got these like circles, and you feel it a little bit here and there, like in the buttons, and like here and here. But I don't feel it a lot throughout the rest of his design. It feels like it's really missing from like the clothing underneath his coat, and I feel like the coat could be pushed more to have those like cloudy shapes. And I think it might be just hidden by his coat, but I think like his body shape could be pushed a little bit more to being a bit more kind of round and soft. He feels like he's been like I guess like elongated a little bit, where before he felt a little bit more squat and round. But yeah, I think the fluffiness could be pushed a lot more in the coat and a lot in the shapes of the clothing underneath. Whereas like I know they have like little curves and stuff in them, but I think it could be pushed to be a little more fluffy. I think the shapes really work right in here. Like I really like the roundness of his face and his eyes and his eyebrows. In the scarf, it really works. I love his hair. It's very cute. But yeah, I think in this version of him, he feels a lot more. He feels younger than the previous version. Like I know he's not like super young from the script stuff you've shown us, but he definitely looks more kind of childish and naive. Whereas I think in the last one he felt a bit more like a grown up feeling. But yeah, I think you just got to push the shape a little bit more, and I think it'll be perfect. But yeah, I like the contrast between them. But I do and I like the through line of colors. Like I like how his scarf matches his shirt, and their shoe color matches. That's pretty cute. But yeah, overall good color work, good character designs. As for the shading style, like I said, it feels more consistent than the previous one that we looked at. More fluffy gaze, yes, squeeze. Yeah, because you still got that nice directional light. I think you could up the contrast a little bit. I think more so on Miles. I find that I think the contrast issue is happening is because Pierce's design is so light colored because he's got like the pale skin and the pale pants and stuff. Um, he's got lots of contrast between like the different elements of him. So difference between like his skin and his shirt. And you've got a nice little contrast between like the different sections of him. And they're also light, that this light shadow still appears on him. I think honestly the contrast could be pushed a little bit more and you could have darker shadows on him. But I think the shadows suffer a little bit on Miles, where he's got the darker skin and more like darker elements to his design. Where I think the shadows need to be pushed. They especially get lost around his face. And I'm finding that the shadows of his hair are kind of not contrasting quite enough with his skin, and same with the scarf. It's all kind of blending together because it needs more contrast. So I think you either need to I definitely think you need to darken the shadows on him. And I think you need to bring in some more highlights to help kind of keep, say, like the different sections from blending together. Right now he feels pretty mid-tone, and I think you need more contrast, darker shadows, and more highlights. Make the scarf a lighter tone? Yeah, that could probably work. Yeah. I mean, let me see. If I went in and darkened some of these shadows. Out of time. But yeah, you can see like it makes his face pop more, having the more stuff to contrast with. And if you made this a little bit brighter. But yeah, you can see how that kind of makes things pop a little bit more. You know? And you can always do things like lighten up his hair and etc. Yeah, there you go. I hope that helps. I hope that answers your questions. Bones is here. He's arrived. What did you say? He just whispered, "I'm inevitable" at me. Hi, sir. What do you want? Just wandering around. He's a powerful boy. He was able to sit up in bed. Does it mean you don't need me anymore? Oh.
My butt smells really bad.
Oh no.
I need to clean my butt after this.
Okay. He's gonna come sit with me. Do you want a microphone?
No.
No microphone? Okay.
You're too heavy. Can't pick you up.
Lear, get out of here.
No.
Oh, Lear, cuddle him. Okay. So this last one is a comic page. Drew in about an hour based on some song lyrics. Apologies for messy handwriting. For critique, the composition, the panel layout would be nice. Anything else you can think of? Also, do you think that people would want to buy something like this as a print? one comic page in a similar style with more detail. Not really this one in particular. As for buying the print, I'm not sure. I have not seen very many people selling like a single comic page as a print. I think it's a cool idea, and I would definitely test it out. Because I think something like that would be cool. I would definitely be someone who'd be interested in buying like little one-page comics. I think that's cool. But yeah, give it a test run and see if it'll work. So yeah, people in the chat said they'd buy them. So there you go. Okay. So as for composition and panel layout, Lear is very aggressive. Here, so let's see. As for the composition, so looking at the overall page, everything is very cut in half. Sorry, Photoshop is giving me so much heck. Okay, so everything is totally cut in half, which it can divide your composition. It's something you should avoid. It can create kind of like it either cuts your illustration in half, which you might not want to do, and it kind of it's a little bit boring. Like, it's used for something where you're trying to make it really balanced and show, say, symmetry between two things, or balance between two things. But here, I'm not sure if that's the effect you want. It really cuts off the top from the bottom, where I think you might want to mix these in together a little bit more. I'd recommend you can do this by kind of overlapping some of your elements. I would either lower the water line, or I would bring it up behind these panels to kind of make some more flow from like here to here. It's up to you. You could also bring in more elements to kind of mix them together. You'd probably move the third panel up. Yeah, so something like that. Just be careful that you're not cutting anything in half, because it's a bit of a composition no, unless you know, that's what you're intending. Yeah. I like the way she cuts over the panel here. Like, I like how it kind of brings you into things. Sorry, I'm just drawing the flow. So another thing I noticed is that this panel, I guess panel 4, feels a little... It needs that connection between... It needs that connection between these words here and here. I think it's getting lost just because the river or the ocean water stuff and the shapes below kind of lead you over to here, whereas this feels like it's been kind of pushed off into the corner, and it's easy to look past it. So I would recommend bringing this either like up in here, kinda, or just having some more elements that lead you down that way, if that makes any sense. It could also help to bring some more brightness to the speech bubble here, because I do find my eye gets brought to her face because there's lots of contrast between like the dark background and then the lighter colors of her. So bringing that into the speech bubble will probably help direct people there. And then I think there's also some contrast issues down here at the bottom. Where I think you need to bring in some more highlights on here. It just feels a little dark and it's easy to kind of lose everything down in this corner. And I think if you up the contrast a little bit more, that would help a lot. I would also recommend moving this speech bubble away from the corner of your page, and this one, like I said, this one probably has to move, but keep it away from the edge. If this is something you're going to sell as a print, you want to keep anything really important away from the edges because they could get chopped off when everything's being printed, so just be mindful of that. But yeah, I think this panel definitely needs to do some more work to kind of direct you to the next panel and to keep attention from here to here. But you know, you can play around, see what works. But just be mindful of what the flow looks like and feels like. I'd also recommend, I know you said that like this was just like, you know, quickly written in or handwritten. I don't find it hard to read. I just find that you need more space to breathe around what you've written. They feel really tight into the edges of the speech bubbles, and I think you need more space so that it's easy to read things. So yeah, just expanding it so you've got a good amount of space around the bubble and the lettering so that you can read it and it's a little easier. Sorry. But yeah, overall, I like it. I think there's just a few placement changes that you need to do, and I think it'll really pop more. Hell yeah. Is there anything I'm missing here? I think that's it. Yeah, it's a really good piece. It's really cool. And I like you experimenting with your layouts and stuff. I'd also I'd be interested to see more contrast like on the surface of the water, because it's a pretty hard cut between like the sky and then the ocean, and I think you could do some more, not gradient exactly, but like bringing in some more kind of contrast between the ocean and the like the details on it. Like I see you've got like the, I guess when you're like you're underwater and you're looking up and you see like the sun reflecting on the water, like you've got that kind of thing going on. Just seeing a bit more contrast on there, I think can add some more visual interest. Yeah. I walked away. I forgot I had this on and you scared me when you spoke. I'm sorry. So yeah. So then there's only like 30 seconds left. But Ace, if you have any questions, let me know. Ooh woo. You're being harassed. Amalthea's giving you a snuggle.
He's harassing me.
Lear. He's snuggling you. Harassing. I am very scary. I'm a terrifying person.
You're so quiet. This is bullshit.
He's getting some deep snuggles from Amalthea right now. I'm gonna grab some water. My throat is a little dry and tickly.
Tickle her throat.
You're good. No problem, Ace. Thanks for submitting. Okay. I'm gonna go grab some water.
No, you can't sit on me. You can't sit there.
She's
So illegal. I can't cough normal. Hydration is important.
Hydration is very important. Stay hydrated.
I'm gonna grab my iPad. I'm stuck.
You're stuck.
Yeah, I'm stuck here.
Well, now you gotta stay with me.
Yeah.
You're stuck with me, my guy. Oh. Okay. So, hopping right along.
Hop, hop.
Hop, hop. So we've got submission from Krell. I see hexes here. How about I do hexes next? Pardon me. Hello. Okay. First thing is a rough concept. This is the first sketch. Wanted to change the composition still, though. It's too central. I feel like the music doesn't have enough room, and the characters are too close together with kind of empty space on the right. Because I'm gonna be real, I don't know how to do backgrounds. It's fair. I don't have time, as I said, because of uni. So I very quickly did this to demonstrate my initial change in ideas. I don't know if it's that extreme. Definitely feels like some dark is missing on the right now. Too much in the empty space. Just gonna go darker with stuff. I just wanted to see my lines for sketching. I'm taking in critique in general. But you especially want composition stuff. Keeping in mind it's still a rough draft. Okay. That sounds good. So I actually like the first one you did. It feels stronger compositionally. And I think you can I feel like you can either crop it in more, so you could cut away like a lot of this. Oh no, I'm on the wrong layer. Oh no, you guys. Because you could crop it in here, and I think it would feel a little bit stronger. But You can always just go in and put in some details like sticks and twigs and like woodland detail. um, and honestly, you can keep it pretty dark because it's not the focus of what's going on with this, because you want kind of all your light stuff to be on the music boy. I don't know who these characters are. I don't know their names. I'll call them music boy and sad boy. And but yeah, so I would recommend keeping this light, and you can keep this pretty dark. So much so you could just have you could keep this like pretty much in shadow and just have a few little details popping up throughout. I'd also recommend doing some like hard shadows on this guy, but that's up to you, because I know you're not looking for any, like, you're more looking for compositions advice and stuff. Oh my god, it's me and Mark, music boy and sad boy. Oops, I forgot to set my timer. So yeah, I think with the bottom one, there's less like tension between this character, what's going on in the foreground and what's going on in the background, because I think there's just like too much space. Actually, I think this could work if you brought Music Boy down a little bit so he's more here, and you could add in some details, kind of like a path leading out, and you can make it work. And if you added some, like, I don't know, shrubbery or details or something over here, you could make it work. But I think you need to fill in this space if you're going to use it. And honestly, it's good to have lots of space, because if you were doing more focus on the background, you could bring in like elements that point toward him, like maybe some shrubs and bushes and stuff, to kind of lead you over that way. There's supposed to be a path later. I just don't know how to draw. That's fair. But yeah, it's something like, I don't know, something like this could really work. If you want help with drawing forests, I got you. I had to draw so many for 9 point. But yeah, but just something like that to bring it in. I think you mentioned the music notes as well. I think you could do something where you bring the notes kind of cascading back, or filling up more of the space. It's up to you. But yeah, I definitely recommend putting him more kind of here, so you've got that kind of, he'll be sitting on a focal point within the composition if you move him here, whereas right now he's like just off it, which is like, it's like, oh, I just want to move it over a little bit because it'll just make it a little bit stronger, because you've got him, the sad boy, in like a good spot where he's like up against this this leading, or not leading line, but on this focal point. So yeah, I think you need just like a third element to this, possibly, to really bring in that composition. Because here I think it works because you've got it like framed here. So I think you need something like here or here to kind of bring it together. I'd recommend down here so that it's kind of like bouncing off each other, because that'll make for a really strong composition. And same with here. You could do something like this. But yeah, but I think you just need like a third element, even if it's just like a shrubbery, honestly, or just like a dark silhouette to kind of balance out this guy, and something here. I think that'll really help strengthen that composition. I was learning about the grid you're doing in film class. It's helpful but easy. Oh, it's helpful but easy to forget. It is. It's definitely like a tool to use when you're you draw out your composition. If something feels off, I'd recommend putting in like the rule of thirds grid and just see if you can kind of rearrange things. And using threes in your composition always strengthens things. Just to, because again, it's thirds are very pleasing to the eye and stuff. And I think you've got a good balance of like size, because I like how he's like nice and big in the foreground and he's like smaller in the background. But I think you need kind of like something either bigger than him, like bigger than the sad boy, or something kind of in the middle, I guess, between him and him in size to kind of help balance it. But it's up to you. You can play around, see what you want to do. Should also bow down to our true overlord, the Fibonacci spiral. Yes, agreed. Hell yeah, triangles are so strong. I don't get how it works. So the way it works is you can take any composition, so any image, and kind of break it down into... So you divide it into 3 sections, so like 1, 2, 3, and then same horizontally, so like 1, 2, 3. And wherever these little sections cross, that's a strong place to put your focal point. So your focal point is like what you want the viewer to focus on. So the reason this really works for the guy in the foreground is his face is like right on that focal point. So it's a really strong place to put him. People will look at his expression and stuff. And just using thirds in any way is very strong. It gives it just keeps the eye moving around, and it's not so much that it feels cluttered, but it's not so little that it feels barren. Bones will be proud of me. My first comic is 20 pages. Hell yeah. Make a composition video. I'd watch that. All good. There is one? Yeah. Oh, you're right. We do. I think I did one about compositions.
100 days. I added pictures.
Oh heck. So it was from our most recent 100 days? Yeah. I feel like something's missing, so thinking of a third element to throw in is probably good. No, I just need ideas. I know, it's hard. It sucks when there's something missing and you're like, oh no. If I go with the second, I'm dust smoothing Silas in the back to the focal point. I just dragged him too far. It's my very quick fix. Didn't have time to bring it back. That's fair. Yeah, don't worry about it. I figure these are just quick. But yeah, overall, I think it's a really strong start to your composition. And yeah, I like the concept. There's a good little narrative going through it. The 100 Days Challenge deleted itself from my memory. Felt like a fever dream. Same. Oh, nope. Kuro, I haven't done yours yet, so I'll do yours after I'm done with Hex's stuff. Okay, so are there any more questions, Hex? Sorry, as I just sip my water. Okay, cool. So moving on. Oh, okay. I put in some lorem ipsum here. What did I do? Okay, I'll go check the Discord. No, don't show up there. Stop. 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 Heck. hisses. Shish. Oh, it's not showing up there. What the heck? What the heck? Computer. You butthead. Oh, boo. So what did it say? So these two are rough initial main character designs for an old comic idea I might come back to. Okay, these were from before I was a patron. Okay. The new Photoshop. Old Photoshop had lorem ipsum. It's just whenever you make like a text box, it throws lorem ipsum in, which I like as the graphic designer when I'm making a little layout and I need text, and it just fills it up for me so I can see how it looks. I just forgot to copy paste Hex's note into it. Oops. Okay. So 2 characters from an old comic. Okay. So let's play some time. These are so old by now. I just didn't know what to put in because I didn't like my uni stuff. That's fair. Okay. So I'll just focus on the design side. Don't worry about it. Okay. 10 minutes on the clock. Okay. So I think starting out, I think their body types could be pushed more, and I think you'd be doing that more with your more current work, because their body types feel very similar. Like if you took away the costumes and the hair, I don't know how well you'd be able to tell them apart. Like this guy's shoulders feel a bit more broad, but that's about it. Oh baby. Yeah, so I think the body types could be pushed more. So I like the roundness that comes through with this character. Like their name is Coin. So I like the roundness in like the bangs and then the hair. I think it could be pushed through the rest of the design further because it feels really strong there, but then the rest feels very like rectangular. So I think you could keep these 2 shapes and kind of mix them together. I think I'd make Burden a little more buff now. Yeah. Lear, get out of the way. Let your dad stand up. Are you okay, hun? He loves you.
Ow.
Lear, stop attacking. You heck-dang cat. I had trouble with Coin's design. I didn't know what to do with their clothes. I see. Okay. So I think you can bring in some more roundness into their design. Because you could do like a rounder collar. You could really push it like this. I don't know. You don't have to go with these, obviously, but just some ideas. You could do things like add like rounded sleeves, stuff like that, or something like this. Rounding out the shoes and stuff, but it's up to you. You could even go in and make the body type like more round. Like kind of take some of the, like maybe make them more squat, or even just like, I don't know, round out their hips or their calves or something. I don't know. It's up to you. There's a lot you can do to really push it further. And you could also lean into having the like a mix of like the rectangles, because you got some of them going on in like lines and stuff. Really mixing those with the circles. Because you could do something like horizontal rectangles mixed with circles, and bring that together. So for example, you could have like the rectangle here and then maybe make their top more round somehow. Maybe push like the circles here, but then you could keep like squares. I don't know. There's lots of directions you could take it, but I think that needs to be pushed a little bit more. Give them booty? Hell yeah. Where's Bones? So Bones is still recovering from his surgery, so he's wandering around the room right now. Little hands on his chest. Yeah, so he's around, but it's just me today. Bones died 30 years ago. It's true. Wake up. Okay. So as for Burden, I really love the kind of ribbon stuff going on here. I'm not sure if it's the hair tie or the hair. I think it's a hair tie. But I like that, and I like how it's mirrored in like, I guess like the tail of his little wrap here. Belt thing. Sorry, can't think of the name right now. Oh, Coin is a ghost. Oh, that's cool. Okay. I'd be curious to see like how they like if you could do any stylization to show they're a ghost. Like I don't know. There's lots of different ways you could do it. You could do it through color or through line work or something like that. But yeah, I'd be curious to see how that would work. Also makes sense now that I can see that they're floating. So there you go. Okay. But yeah, I think Burden's design, like his costume and kind of his shapes and stuff, feel a lot more cohesive. Like I like the ribboniness to his hair and like to the little bits hanging there, as well as like kind of the lankiness to his form. I think the lankiness could be pushed more, especially in his body. But then you've got some good work with like different rectangles here and there, and like the wraps on his legs. Oh, pardon me. But yeah, it feels a lot more cohesive. I think you could add some more flowiness to balance out his hair, because he's got like everything feels very kind of like form fitting outside of like the flowiness like up here. You could do something to balance it out, whether it's like creating maybe longer tails here, or maybe like making this longer. I don't really know, but something like that to kind of like match it out. Balance it, I mean, not match it out. Yeah, if that makes sense. And yeah, I think you could definitely push the use of like kind of ribbon shapes throughout. Maybe add some patterns or something like that. And like you said, you'd obviously like make Burden more buff in the future, which I think could help out a lot. But yeah, I think Burden's design comes together a lot more than Coin's in this current iteration. Thinky. Yeah, I think that's it. Do you have any questions, Hex? as I drink some of my water. Bones has disappeared. He wandered back upstairs like a ghost. No questions right now? Okay, cool. So before I start the next timer, how many pages is the max for critiques? I might get a little beta read on We See Creatures. I think it's 40 pages of script or comics you can send in. Bones is dead. Long live Bones. Yeah, I think it's 40 pages is the max. And I think this month you have to get it in by the 22nd if you want a long form critique. We don't need to send 40 pages. That's the max. So you can do anything under that. The issue is 80 pages long? Oh no. Oh no. We could do 40 pages this month. 40 pages the next month. I don't know. I'll talk to Bones. See what he thinks. I was thinking like 12. No. If it's like a chapter of a comic or like a section of script, we're happy to read like up to 40 pages. Just cuz like it really helps to get feedback on kind of like a bigger chunk of things, cuz it's like it gives us more of a sense of like where the story's going or like how your writing works and stuff, or how like the story of the comic works. So yeah, so it sounds like a lot, but it's not in comics. Okay. Have you ever done not safe for work? No, we don't do any unwholesome art. Woo. Where do I submit the comics? So you have to become a patron, and there should be a link in the description down below. So if you sign up as a patron, I think it's like, is it the $5 tier? No, $8 tier, I think. So in the next stream, we can look at your stuff. Will you critique patron stuff even if they aren't present, as long as they've sent something in? Yep, totally. Even if you're not at the stream, it's all recorded and stays up on the channel, so you can always go back and look through it. We can also do like we can write it personally if you don't want it to be shared on the stream, and we can just send you notes. That could work too. I was thinking it'd be easier for the production of the rest of the issue. Not safe for work can be wholesome. I guess so, but we don't really want to show any not safe for work stuff on here. And we don't want it on our Discord. Not that we have any problem with not safe for work, but we don't want to put it on here and stuff. Bones crit me. That's valid? Yeah. Crit me as a person? No. Stop. Yeah, it's a brand thing. Yeah. We just have some like younger viewers. We don't want to upset anyone, you know? Sorry, as I swallow into the mic to drink my water. Okay, so let's do the last one for Hex. Yeah, you definitely have to be careful with like not safe for work stuff. Yeah, because it's hard to find a printer or a place to host, and you don't want to share it with younger people. Well, it's okay. It's okay if you don't want to chit chat too much. It's also why you and Bones don't swear too often. Yeah, basically. It's just so it's more kind of like general audience. Because we don't want to alienate anyone by swearing too much or sharing like stuff that would make people uncomfortable. Yeah. Okay, so let's do this last one for Hex. And yeah. A tiny draw pile with a few sketches to do with a Murray U. Okay. Okay. So, let's see. I love the swoop of the tail. I think that's lovely. I love some good flowy lines. And I like how it matches everything throughout. Like it matches like I'm not sure if those are horns or if it's hair. Like I know it's just a sketch, so but I like how it matches like the curve of the ears and the hair / horns. Ooh woo. As well as the necklace and belts and stuff. Yeah, I like how you've made everything feel it's hair. Okay. I thought so, but I wasn't sure just because I saw two like darker ones. So I was like, wait, is horns? Because hell yeah, a mermaid with horns. Hell yeah. Made it look like horns on purpose. Just playing around. Yeah. But yeah, overall, I like how flowy you've made it. Like it really feels like he's underwater. It's got that like light feeling to it. Very good. I also like the curve of like how am I always losing where my brush is? What layer I'm on? How do I do this every time? Okay. I like the curve of the little I'm not sure if it's gills or like the little rib guys. But I like the curve of that. It really matches just like the other lines that are present here. Like it's just nice, and there's a good. I like the balance between like the torso and the hip area. Like I don't know what it is. I think it's the line work that really just like it's got good tension to it. And tension between like lines, I mean like pairing like straight lines with curved lines creates like it's this like illusion that's created from straight lines and curved lines where the eye reads curved lines really fast and or straight lines really fast and curved lines slower, where if you have like a good balance of them, it creates like just like a good feeling when you're looking through it and leads the eye around really nice. So yeah, I really like just kind of the way you've placed your lines and like the implied shapes and stuff. And things feel it just feels really balanced. It's really nice. It's good work. What else? No, I want to give him horns. But yeah, I think you've drawn the neck a little bit long. But I like the shape of it. Like it feels very sturdy and like attached to the head really well and stuff. I like the little doodles. They're very cute. And the expressions, they're also very cute. 10 out of 10. Especially this one. They're so cute. I also like the little teeth. Little shark teeth. also love I forgot to take out my I'm so tired self-draw. Long neck problem. That's fair. Yeah, same with this one. I like the shape on the torso and the hippie stuff and the clothing here. Like it feels very there's like lots of good implied shape to it. Like it feels very sturdy. I find it also really works in the shoulder area, like here and on the forearms and stuff. I find his forearm and hand feel a little off. I'm not exactly sure what it is. Like they don't feel quite as sturdy as the rest. And I think the neck is having a little trouble connecting to the torso here. But yeah. Otherwise, I think it's really good. And I think your shapes are always getting better and better, and I think your line choices are getting better as well. I think the hand forearm is also placed weird. Yeah, I think it's like tilted a little off, kinda. I don't know what to do with it. I think that's fair. It's just a sketch, so yeah. But yeah, like I said, your forms are awesome. Your sketches are looking good. Is there any questions you had about it, or any other feedback you wanted on this stuff? I like how sturdy this one is. Like I really like the arms and the like kind of foreshortening here. Like it looks really good. Me on the McCann Group Patreon. I'm in. Hacker voice. You're good? Okay, cool. Thank you, Hex. Alrighty. So let's look at Kuro's stuff, because I saw you were here. Just gonna drink some more water. Oh no, I'm out of water. Oh heck. Okay. So, thought I'd get a critique on my character designs. Maki is the main protagonist and Honda is the main antagonist. Okay. So looking at them together. My poor art. No, your art is good. Don't worry. Okay. So Honda, third year. Maki, third year. Okay. And them together. They're both 14, 15. Honda has a ponytail and bullies Maki. Also, the story they're from is about gymnastics, so Honda is much more muscular than normal. Here's a height comparison. Okay. So I like how distinct what? Oh, sorry, Bones. I was so confused by that. Are my blankets good? I was like, what? Yes. So I've been hanging out in Bones and I switched rooms while he recovers from surgery because my bed is like a better height for when you're struggling to like get in and out of bed, where his is lower down. So I'm in his bed with all the rainbow sheets. The blankets are very good. They keep me very warm and cozy. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I like the difference in body types of these characters. They're very distinct. You've got some different shapes here, which is great. One thing that stands out to me, especially looking at them side by side, is I think the proportions feel off. I find them especially in Mackie, where like he feels scaled up a lot more than Honda. Where I think, because I think part of it is like their torsos feel very short. Sorry, just let me find the right layer. So yeah, their torsos feel very short. Like Honda has very long legs, and so does Mackie compared to their torso. Actually, I think Mackie's is a bit better proportioned. But I think his legs definitely feel a bit too long compared to the torso. And I think he just feels scaled up too much. Like his head feels too big compared to Honda. Because I think if it was like, because like if you have like a plus size character or a character who's supposed to be like maybe more wide or squat, their head shape wouldn't be too different, because you have like, if we're just looking at like the skull, it would be like huge difference. And I think honestly you can have you can have difference in like how big their head is, because different people have different head sizes, obviously. Accidentally drew Honda too tall, so had to shrink him. Oh, okay, I see. But yeah, so I think it's just the proportions are a little bit off in this example, but obviously when you draw them again, you can always touch up the proportions and stuff. But yeah. So that's, I think that's the only big issue I'm seeing. And yeah, it definitely helps when you're working on a comic to do like a lineup like this, because I totally do this stuff when I'm working on 9 Point, where I'll draw like I think I had a lot of trouble with Penny, who's like one of our really short characters, and I drew her, and her proportions are just way off compared to like other characters, because I didn't draw her like side by side with the other characters until we lined them all up. Yeah, so so yeah, so it can get thrown off if you're not constantly comparing them, and I don't think you have to constantly compare them, but just keep that in mind whenever you're drawing them side by side to double check the proportions to make sure that they feel like they're in the same room, Okay, so looking more into the designs themselves. But yeah, like I said, I really like the difference of body type. Yeah, I feel like Mackie's got this like bell shape going on throughout a lot of his costumes. Like you see it kind of here and like here. Even there. I mean, you can see it in his face and stuff. But yeah, I really like it. It feels very consistent. I like it. I like it a lot. I also like how he looks. He looks kind of like shabby, not shabby, but like he's got like little tears in his uniform that he's like sewn up, and like he's not wearing like super fashionable stuff. Like it's not like he's like unfashionable, but like he just feels more like, oh, he's very poor. Yeah, like he feels like not super into fashion or anything, just wearing kind of like what's around, very plain stuff. I really like his sweater here. It's really cute. But yeah, the way he dresses and kind of like his hair and his expression really feels like like he's being bullied, very kind of like downtrodden and like hiding. He saves wherever he can, yeah, and like hiding, and looks pretty solemn. And yeah, I think it's I like how you get such a good glimpse at who he is just by looking at his design. I like how he's kind of hiding in his hair and stuff. And yeah, I think it's great. As for his colors, they feel pretty consistent. Like you've got this through line of kind of like green and brown, because he's got like the brown of his hair. And then he's got like the khaki pants and like the little beige band-aid and stuff. And then he's also got the green going through, so he's got like the green of his eyes and like the little stripe on his shorts. And then I guess the uniform, like they all have the same uniform, but I like how it's got kind of like a green hint to it. Like it's blue, but it's like more on the greener side of the blues instead of like more on the purple side. But yeah, I think you could push it a little bit more, because I was looking at kind of the grays that you have going on. Because gray, you can inject a little bit of color into it. Let me see. So if we grab this gray, so I see you've got it like full gray, but you can pull in some color to it by pulling it just like a little bit farther away from the gray scale and pulling a little bit of color into it. So you could bring even more kind of green into his grays and stuff, if you wanted to, just to push it some more. I might also recommend brightening up his uniform a little bit, just like a tad, just because like I know it's like a common uniform style, but if you have it too dark, it can be easy to lose kind of like where his arms are in comparison to like the torso. Like if he ever has like his arm crossed over his chest, you might lose the detail in it, especially if you're using like this darker color with like black lines. So just be careful of contrast whenever you're working on your comic or your project or whatever. Just because, yeah, you don't want that detail lost if it's too dark. So I might recommend lightening it up a bit, or if you're adding like shading and stuff in your comic, then definitely make sure that you have good highlights and contrast and shadows, just to make sure that like, yeah, you're not losing any of those nice details. And same with his sweater here. I'd recommend lightening it up a little bit, because I understand that it's supposed to be like, oops, oh no, too much zoom. But yeah, it's supposed to be like black or off black, but I might brighten it up a little bit. That might be too much. just so that you're not losing any of those details. But yeah. But overall, I think it's a really... Oh, the comic is black and white? Okay, so then definitely be careful about where you're placing, like, your contrast, whether you're using, like, a grayscale or if you're using just pure black and white, then just make sure you're careful about where you're adding highlights and shadows, so you don't lose any details. How would I submit my art for a critique? So if you want to submit your art for a critique, you have to become a patron. I think it's the $8 tier that gets you into the critique streams. So you wouldn't be able to get any work onto this stream, but if you sign up right now, you can get into our next stream, which will be in 2 weeks. Okay. So let's look at Honda. Okay, so Honda, I love the skull and the beast mode and stuff. Like I like the graphic tee stuff. He, again, like I said before, be careful with like an all black outfit. Just making sure, like I like that his arms are bare, so that if he ever has like his arm crossed over his torso or like over top of his pants, you'd be able to tell like what his hand is doing and stuff, because of the contrast. But definitely be careful if you ever have like his legs crossed over each other, or just keeping an eye on that contrast so you're not losing any details. I like the reds that's pulled through his design a lot. I like the red of his shoes matching like his eyes and his hair. I think that's a really nice touch, and it really kind of brings things together, because it seems like outside of his uniform, his clothing is very like kind of blacks and grays and stuff. I'd use white lines. Yeah, totally. That's a good way to make sure that you're not missing any of the details whenever it's like black on black. Yeah, I also like the use of like triangles throughout his design. Like I like how he's got like the V's going on through his design, and he's very pointy. I think that's a nice touch. And I like how it's he's got kind of like, it looks like padded shoulders or like pointier shoulders. I think that's a really cute touch to the uniform, and kind of makes it his own. Same with like the pop collar, and the open shirt. Like I really like how different their uniforms are. Like he's got the mended bits, and it's all very like properly worn, and he's just like, nah, I'm gonna hang it open. But yeah, I like the difference in their uniforms. It really makes them stand apart even more. And again, same with, I like the triangle shapes throughout his design. That's a really nice touch. I think it could be brought into his shoes a bit more, like the designs on the shoes, like just making these triangles or something like that. But I don't know. You can play around with that quite a bit. But yeah, I like how it's in his hair. He's got the little triangle flippy bit. I think you could push it a bit more at the top of his head, like maybe making things pointier. Not sure. I mean, obviously you don't have to go like up that high at the top. Pushing it a little bit more in like in his hair, because his hair feels very rounded. And you mentioned he has a ponytail, but I don't know. I love I accidentally made all the bells and triangles. You did. You made a pointy boy and you made a soft boy. Hell yeah. His ponytail's pointy? Okay, I figured. Yeah. I like his shapes. Like I said, and like that Viking style that's popular. Oh, I see. Yeah. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah. But yeah, overall, really nice design. Like I said, I love the contrast between the character shapes. I like his colors. Hmm. Oh, Bones is back. Hi. Almost. Actually, no, I'm like halfway through. Okay. So let me know if you have any questions, Kuro. I'm happy to answer. Bonsan, woo. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions. I'm gonna keep moving along. Cause I'll work on what you said. Okay, cool. Okay, so the next one is by Alice B. I don't know your YouTube name. I don't know if you're here. We also have Cole Foxwell, and we have Krell's piece. Ubu. Anyone here? You're sore. Oh, poor Bones. He's sore. Send him little hearts to show him you care. Ubu. Okay, I'm gonna start on Alice's. Okay. So I think there's a little explanation of what everything is. These are both from an independent study I did last semester in which I attempted to turn a miniscript into a graphic novel. In the miniscript, Alan is confronting Jolly while also remembering the characters he met on his journey. So it goes back and forth between Alan and Jolly and Alan with the characters. Setting both images, supposed to be a dimly lit kitchen. Had some trouble with the actual process of making the pages since I've never done it before. Most of the process was me screaming at Photoshop. Feedback on the overall composition, panel layout, flow of the pages, as well as a critique of the style. Style is what they've been struggling with mostly. Okay. So for the first one, are pentagrams considered wholesome? Yes, very wholesome. Dude on the left is my antagonist, Jolly. On the page before he says, I know you'd do anything for your family, Alan. And then on this page he continues, but are you willing to take their place? The lady on the left is Minerva. She wants to sacrifice the protagonist to Roz Gelak so she can get her children back, who are missing. Okay. Okay, so looking at page 1. Let's get started. Yeah, so I think it would definitely help to have context of like the whole story, but just to understand like the room layout and stuff. So it could be appearing on other pages, but that I haven't seen, showing kind of setting up the room they're in. But it is a little confusing to tell where they are, but that could just be from lack of context outside of the single page. I think that also creates confusingness with the speech bubble, because without it's hard to understand who's speaking. If I hadn't read like that explanation that it was Jolly who was doing it, I wouldn't know. It feels like a presence who's talking to both these characters. It doesn't feel like Jolly is speaking. So I'd recommend when a character's speaking, it's generally good practice to have their mouth open as if they're speaking. It also helps to have like a tail attached to the balloon pointing to the face of whoever is speaking. But I can understand like not wanting to use like a tail because it does create kind of like a dramatic effect. But it would definitely help to kind of understand who is speaking. Maybe more context would help with that. As for the actual typography of the speech bubble, I would recommend breaking it into more than 2 lines. You might need like 3 or 4.
Can you get Amalthea out of there?
Amalthea, stop harassing the fish. Silly girl. No problem. But yeah, when you have a circular bubble like this, you want to kind of fill it this ways. Like you don't, because it's creating too much space on the top and bottom, and it feels a little weird. So I'd recommend kind of breaking it up into more lines. And as it gets longer in the center and shorter at the top and bottom, just kind of filling the shape of that circle. I think you could also make the line spacing a little closer between between these 2 lines, just because they feel it's a little bit too far apart, feels a little bit disjointed. I recommend putting it together a bit more. And I think just changing how many lines you use will help kind of make the bubble feel better and easier to read. You've got good contrast between the lettering and the background of the bubble. I find it creates a bit of a merger, meaning like kind of an illusion that things are on the same plane, I guess. That's what I mean. So like I feel like it needs to either like completely overlap this white panel line or it needs to be pulled away from it. It's just like teetering so close on the edge of it that it feels like it's sat on top of it, which feels weird and brings too much attention to the panel outline, I find. So just bringing it up, maybe making it smaller or bringing it down more would really help kind of get rid of that effect. I find, so compositionally, like with the flow, you've got some pretty good play between these 2 panels. Like I find myself just looking between the faces, which is good, because it feels like it's supposed to be very balanced. I like the effect it has, and it kind of brings you down to read this. I think you could use a bit more contrast on the actual like background of the bubble. Like it's got good contrast between the bubble itself and the lettering, but it doesn't have great contrast between the bubble and the background of the comic. So I think you need to use something lighter, possibly, to help differentiate it, because it does blend in with the background quite a bit. But anyways, you've got some good kind of like, this is how the flow goes, so then you read that. I'm unsure about this panel. I don't know the purpose of it. It feels really disjointed. I don't really know where this candle is. It's too close up with no context before it to really understand what its significance is, what it means, where it is. I find this one has a bit more context where it feels like it's on the floor. possibly. Honestly, I'm very confused about the placement of everything. But I think either way, this panel has more information than this one. Honestly, I would cut this and just keep this one. This one also doesn't have very good flow. It doesn't really lead you anywhere, where I find this one at least has some leading lines going on with it. And again, it provides more information. These also feel like they're giving the same information, possibly. Again, this is without context of other pages. So I think I would nix this and then expand this and add some more information in it. But anyways, so the flow goes like this. I think you need something to bring it back down this way. And then I think this panel works pretty well. Finally. Yeah, I think it needs to be lightened, or there needs to be obviously pages beforehand showing the scene, maybe in brighter light, more establishing shots. But I find the background is just so dark, it's impossible to tell what's going on. You see like a couple little details, like some details on his face and maybe his arm. You can see a leg here. And then this lady, you can see like her little feet. But even then, her torso really blends in with the background so much that like it's hard to tell what's going on. So I think you need to be a bit more, you need to heighten the contrast and be a bit more clear with your shapes. I find it all just kind of blends together. There's so many soft edges that it's kind of hard to tell kind of what's background, what's foreground. The only thing that is really apparent is like the pentagram. But yeah, but I like the balance of everything. Compositionally, I like the first two panels, and this final panel. I think they work pretty well. I also like how his foot kind of leads you off the page. But yeah, I think it's really important to kind of make sure your panels are showing the information that you need to show. Just because I find these two in the middle are confusing. I'm not exactly sure what they're supposed to mean. But again, this is without context of other pages preceding it. Is there anything else I'm missing about feedback stuff? As for the style, I like lots of parts of it. Like, I like the close-up of their faces. I think it's more a problem with Minerva, where her hair really blends in with the background. You need more contrast here. I like this effect. I like how ethereal a lot of it feels. I think the contrast just needs to be upped, just so you can tell the different pieces apart from each other. But I like it. I think if it was cleaned up a little bit, it would definitely shine a lot better. But I like the color choices. I like how ethereal it feels with all the kind of glowiness. I think it just needs to be like reined in a little bit. But yeah, I like it. It is cool. It has me intrigued. Okay, so I'll put another timer on for the next page. The guy on the left is the protagonist. Alan, the guy on the right is Ezekiel, who's supposed to be the one saying what's stopping you. I don't think it reads as that very well. Ezekiel is trying to convince Alan to go after the antagonist for the things he's done, since at this time Alan's having doubts about his quest. So I got the impression that it was Ezekiel saying the line, just because he's the one with his mouth open, and he seems very angry. And the typography really implies that it's like a very angry line. I really like the little use of red in his eyes. It also matches the typography. Like, I know Alan has a bit of red on him, but it just feels like a reflection more than like something else. But yeah, I like it. I like how emotional this page is. Like, I find I don't care so much about seeing the background, because the background again is very dark. Because it feels like it's way more focused on the emotions of these characters. So they are like the only thing showing here. And I think this is like a page or a panel like this. It works really well to kind of dampen out the background so that it's really focused on this big intense emotion going on. Whereas the previous page, I think you need a lot more visual information to understand kind of where everyone is. But yeah, I really like the harsh lighting. I love like right here and like right on this like a little bit of his face, where I like that really bright, stark light that's hitting them. It feels like they're in a spotlight or something, or there's like some light coming in through the window. It feels very noir. But yeah, but I like the contrast here. It's a lot easier to see what's going on. Like, you can just see like the details of his hand gripping his shirt. You can see like his shoulder and their faces. And I like the little dash of light between them. Creates that tension and connection. I really like it. Yeah, and there's a lot more, like, some things kind of blend in with the background, but I think it works because it feels like it's supposed to be really dimly lit with like the stark lighting onto it. But it's a lot easier to read what's going on because of that high contrast. I find it gets lost in the second panel. Like, I have no idea what's being slammed. I don't know if it's a table. I don't know if he's punching Alan. I'm 90% sure it's Ezekiel's fist. Oh, sorry, hit the mic. I'm 90% sure it's Ezekiel's fist slamming just because it's coming from the same direction as he was in the previous panel. And I find this little flashy line a bit distracting. It feels really separate from the lines behind it. You might want to work on like making it feel more cohesive compared to the rest of the style. I'm not exactly sure how you do that, but you can play around with things. I also like the flow of this panel, I think. Yeah. I like it for the beginning. Like, I like the play between their faces, and then it kind of brings you down here. And I like how the fist kind of brings you out of the panel. So yeah, the composition of this page is looking real good. Yeah, I think it's a lot more effective than the previous page. Yeah, and I think the style works a lot better on this page just because things are easier to see, so it's a lot more clear. And I think things feel a lot more deliberate. Like, it doesn't, because I found in the last one it felt like a lot of the, oh shoot, I've lost my pen. But yeah, it felt like a lot of stuff was kind of like had glowy effects just kind of put on top. And I think there needed to be more mindfulness of like where the highlights and shadows are. But here it feels like everything's lit a lot more deliberately. And yeah, it just feels more clear. I really like it. I like the emotions on their faces. Like I said, this feels like a very like kind of noir, dark mystery type thing. Yeah. So overall, very cool style. Very interested about kind of where it's going and stuff. I think you just need to work on being more clear with what you're showing. Make sure that you're adding in your backgrounds that are lit so you can see what's going on. But it could be these are just 2 pages that don't really have backgrounds in them. I'm not sure. Whereas other pages might have more to them. But yeah, overall, very cool. So Alice, if you're here, let me know if you have any questions. I don't think you're here, but who knows? What? Bones just whispered, "I have no chest," and I must scream at me. So I'm gonna move on. No, there's 2 more. Okay. So let's do Cole Foxwells. Again, Cole, I don't know your username on YouTube, so I don't know if you're here. Okay. So I also don't think there was any comment on this one about what's going on. Let me see. Yeah, there was no comment with it. Okay. So looking at it overall, so you got this person hanging out on the dragon trying to catch like a Pegasus. I find it is very flat. The background has some more depth to it, but I find the actual figures within the illustration are they feel very flat. Part of it is they don't have a whole lot of shading. There's a little bit here, but it feels kind of directionless and very like low contrast, so it's kind of hard to really see the shadow. And I think that's the biggest issue is there's very little contrast between, like, there's hardly any shading on it. It's very low contrast. Everything feels very mid-tone. The exception would be like the background, which is like the brightest element, maybe the Pegasus a bit. But if we looked at just like the dragon and the person, like if you look at the color over here, these are very close together. Like there's not very much contrast, and there's no shading to give it more contrast. Everything's very mid-tone, and by mid I mean like it's in the middle of the color, like the value spectrum. You don't have very many highlights, you don't have very many shadows. It's all very like similar value, which can make things feel very flat. There's a little bit of contrast between like the Pegasus wing, which actually is like closer to the highlight side, versus say like the dragon's wing, which is very mid-tone. And I think so you need to add in some highlights, some shadows, vary up the colors so that you're using some lighter colors. Some of the colors are going to need to be darker. For example, you could give her lighter clothing, or maybe make the dragon scales brighter, or add in some nice like bright highlights to really bring out maybe like the shininess or the sun glinting off the dragon, for example. Just adding in some highlights here, as well as like darkening in shadows, etc. I'm just gonna try adding in some shadows to kind of show what I mean. So even just doing something like you know, just something to add some more contrast to it. I'd also recommend kind of lightening up where you want attention to go, possibly, like adding highlights in there. Would probably help out a lot. Ursula Scratchbones is back.
Okay, you can finish your stream first.
But yeah, I think. Now, obviously, if you don't want to have like add in a lot of shading, that's totally cool. That is, it's a fun way of stylization that I also like to do. But if that's the case, then you definitely need to have really high contrast between the different values you're using. So, for example, you'd probably want to like lighten or darken the dragon versus clothing, hair, etc. And make sure there's a good amount of contrast between the foreground and the background. I think with the dragon and the rider, there's good contrast between the background and the foreground. But with the Pegasus, they kind of blend in a little bit, especially up here. But yeah, I really think it's just a contrast issue, and
It's really halved.
sorry.
It's halved right down the middle.
Oh, you're right. Bones mentioned it's halved, which again can cause for a bit of a boring composition. Where I think one thing that would really help would be making the Pegasus bigger, making them take up a lot of this, pulling them more into the foreground, for example. Could add some more visual interest, maybe making the rider and the dragon smaller in the background. They're in an okay place. They're over the focal point, which is good, but the Pegasus is definitely kind of a little off from where they need to be. Using the rule of thirds. So they just need to be brought up and probably made bigger so that it's not like the exact same size here and here. Yeah, if that makes any sense. Hello. One thing I recommend is setting atmospheric perspective, where things in the back closer to lighter hues and things in the front are darker. Yes, that definitely helps create space. Is foreground objects are darker, whereas background objects are, yeah, like they said, lighter and I guess more washed out. I guess not washed out because they can still have contrast on them and stuff. But yeah, yeah. So there you go. I think that covers it. I really like this little section right in here. Like there's just like the contrast needs to be upped, but I like the way the neck has been rendered. Like it's got this nice little the form has been modeled, as you can see, with like the scale on the dragon and how it kind of shows like the turn of the head and like where it attaches to the jaw attaches to the neck. I think that's a really nice little detail. I also like the foreshortening on her little foot here and the way everything overlaps on the dragon. I think that's done really well. I also like her hand. I like how she's drawn. She's drawn really well. And she has a lot more depth to her than the dragon and the Pegasus, except for this little loveliness right here. But yeah, I think for the most part it's just little composition issues and some contrast issues, and I think pushing that would make it really shine. So yeah, Cole, if you're here, let me know if you have any questions. But otherwise, I'm gonna move on. on to our final piece, which is by Krell. Okay, so I'm assuming this is the title page for their webcomic. My husband's a werewolf. Sorry? Looks like a cover page for Tapas. A cover page for Tapas. Or Webtoon, or one of those guys. Okay. So, looking at it. I like the nice bright colors. They really set the tone really well because it looks like it's very cute and lighthearted. And I don't know if it's slice of life, but it feels very like domestic. I mean, I guess if it's like My Husband's a Werewolf, it sounds like a very domestic story. But yeah, I like the color choice. It really sets the tone well. I like the cute little expressions. It just reads so cute. I think compositionally, I think it works. Sorry, I'm just thinking out what I want to say. So I like the use of like putting them here because it gives lots of room for the typography to read. However, I think the typography needs to be bigger. Bones, do you know if like how big would this be? Would it be like a small little badge type thing? The biggest would be like 300 pixels. So the biggest would be like maybe. Sorry? Like that. Okay. So like fairly small. So I'd recommend making the typography larger. Just because if it gets shrunk down at all, if someone's looking on their phone, it might be hard to read. I also think there's just like a lot of line space between these. And I think it could be brought down and just it would feel a little bit more together because I think the space just makes it feel like two separate statements. Where if it's brought closer together, they'll feel grouped. I think the byline could also be made bigger. And honestly, it could be moved kind of down here. Give you lots more room to make this bigger. And I think I always want to shake you guys who do your title pages and you put the title in tiny little font. And I'm like, no, make it big. It's part of your composition. Make it big. Because I know you want the illustration to shine, but typography is important. Ooh, whoa. Yeah. I like the little details in the background. There's like little hearts and a little cat and cookies and a video game controller and stuff. I also love the little ears on the title. That's cute. Little wolf ears. Honestly, I would maybe make them bigger and kind of pull them around the typography some more. Like I like the little kind of ripple outline thing going on here. And I think you can keep it, but I think you could also kind of bring the elements in more. They kind of get hidden. Like I know it feels like they're not supposed to be like the super focal point. Like like it definitely the attention goes to like the characters and the typography, but I think you could do some more kind of bringing them closer in because a lot of them are really like squished out to the edge and it's hard to get a read on some of them. where I think you could bring them in more. I don't mind them overlapping with the edge of this because I think that creates some visual interest, but I think they need a bit more room to breathe to kind of understand what's going on. Yeah. I think they just need to be involved with the rest of the elements a little bit more because they're so cute. And yeah, I think that's the biggest issue here is just the there's so much space between all of the elements, and I think making the typography bigger, bringing it close together, bringing it closer to the characters as well might help a little bit. And definitely making the byline bigger and bringing it down so it's more readable, especially when it's at smaller sizes. Yeah, don't be afraid to like fill up the space. I think also having you might want to pull stuff from out from behind the typography because I think I think there's some trouble having elements behind the typography because they kind of pull away from it and it can be a little hard to read because I find myself looking past the typography to see what's in the background. So maybe like surrounding the typography a little bit more instead of overlapping it might help as well. But again, it might feel different if you change the sizing as well. The expressions are so cute. Oh, I also love the little detail of like the little fur mixing with like overlapping with the hair. That's really cute. And the little tooth is also very cute. But yeah, I think all the elements you have are really good. They just need to be mixed around a little bit and changed in size. Basically, just sizing and placement. That's about it. I think that's all I got. Krell, if you're there, if you have any questions, let me know. Bones just whispered, "Help me." So, I'm gonna go help my sick boy because he's recovering from surgery. So thank you so much.
Questions they can ask next week.
True. If you have any questions, you can always ask us on the next critique stream, which will be in like 2 weeks. Or you can just send me a private message. Okay. I will see you guys later.
I want to sit up and scratch my back.
Okay, I gotta go scratch my boy's back. Because he itchy. Okay. Thanks for coming, you guys. I'm just gotta figure out how to turn this off.